Really smooth stuff coming out from the Dignitas solo laner, the entirety of the team though, and I think that's what makes it so much scarier there, Taco, is that, you know, if it was just Variety doing it or if it was just Qvo doing it, I'd say Mouse can bounce back, they can find a win in game 2, and while I'm not putting that off of my card just yet, I think absolutely Dignitas are in the driver's seat with the way they played game number 1. We'll see if they can keep their foot on the pedal in game number 2. Head to picks and bans.
I want to see Cherryo be a little bit less willing to sacrifice his own life so early on. That first blood spill that he had where he was just looking to contest the back harpies,
Sure.
it just really is not worth it that early on. You don't want to hinder yourself during those first 5 levels because that's probably going to be the period where you just continuously get aggressed on and punished, and that's exactly what we witnessed from Dignitas. They're just too good of a team, I think, to give them an inch.
I like the ban so far. There's only one, but I already like it. Taking Zhang Kui out of the hands of Variety, certainly a nice move coming out from the Mouse guys. I think that's one of the characters that obviously he won MVP, but I think that's one of the characters, not just players, that really ran game number 1. His ability to just make everybody disperse and ruin all of the game plan there was for those team fights was really impressive. And the global Chernobog going to come out. I almost said Charizard. Guy does bring the heat, so you got to watch out.
Well, it's because Aggro just finished telling us a story about how he got skamazzed from his first edition holographic Charizard thanks to his next door neighbor.
Yeah, Aggro has a history of getting scammed by his neighbor, so we'll see. That's why we have him as a commentator. Wasn't able to keep up the play in the mid lane.
Yikes. I'm not going to touch that one because I'm not trying to bring the aggression out here, okay? You have no idea what you just set yourself up for.
That's actually true. I'm gonna watch my mouth in case aggression shows up. But Baron Samedi is certainly gonna show up here. We identified that we like him a little bit more in that solo support role. Knowing Dardez, this absolutely can be a support position. Baron Samedi. We'll see if it works out well for him, unlike what we saw earlier. But with Artemis and Athena on the other side of the bans, that leaves Freya wide open for the taking. Sobek gonna provide the control for the pure damage Valkyrie.
I have a feeling that if Mouse don't look for the Ninja here, I'm not 100% certain that Dig will want it either, but I know I wouldn't want to let Dig have Freya, Ninja, and Sobek on the same exact team. Mouse took a little bit of a risk there. I think they knew what they would be giving up, and that's the Freya. She's been such a heavily contested pick, especially in the recent weeks. She has... Since her change, pretty much, I think a lot of people have held her in really high regards. Her burst damage is limitless, I'll say.
Yeah, and we've seen her played a lot in the mid lane, and I think I would expect to see Zyrhoes pilot her more so than Arkkyl, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Agni for the mid lane. You and I have been talking a lot about Agni lately. We want to see more of it. Qvo on his classic Serqet, but why don't you touch on the hot-headed mid laner?
Well, I'm happy to see the Agni, not just because I think that Agni has like a really strong early, mid, and late. It doesn't feel as though that god really has a specific weak point to pinpoint. It can be really difficult to try and track him down. Relatively safe escape, lots of nice spread damage and space control, so it is a bit surprising that we don't get to see more of Agni, but I'm happy to witness it here because I think that that's going to be one of the necessary picks for them to try and deal with this Freya. You're going to need damage, but you're going to need it from a distance. You can't get up close and personal with this god, otherwise she will tear you apart, and that's the same exact motive I think that Dignitas are looking for by just trying to bring everybody closer and closer. Both Sobek and Serqet have parts of their kits that can further throw somebody out of position into the team comp.
Mouse also not sold that Freya's going to wind up in the long lane, ban out Arkyl's Rom. Dignitas staying true to that support role, going to ban out the Sylvanas and the Nox. Again, a support Nox is why we see that ban. Arkyl's going to take the Fighting Cat to the long lane. It's going to be the Anhur selection for Team Dignitas, and Jing will be the hunter of choice for Mouse. So that, of course, leaves open either a solo or a support. Mouse going to tell us who's playing on that Baron right now. As we wait for the pick, it's going to be the Geb. So I think it's going to be Geb support, Baron solo. We'll see how that one works out, as Dignitas have a more of a bursty composition for sure.
If Geb can survive, so all Dardez realistically has to do is make it past that laning phase. And that's always every Geb's worst nightmare in a competitive level of play, because that's probably his most punishable period. Anytime you look for rotations or even to try and help defend off of buff invades, which I wouldn't be too surprised to see Dig looking for here, whether it's on duo side or on solo, you can probably anticipate that they're going to try and abuse some of this early game Freya pressure. That's why I really like what Mouse have done here. They saw the Freya pick happen. They immediately tried to just build gods around their composition that would still maintain their ideal goal of crowd control. I think that's what you're always going to be looking for anytime you bring Baron into a composition, but just healthy damage spread all around. Jing also has strong crit potential, which is going to be necessary to take down that Freya, and the ability to agility away off of the whoop.
Right now, Team Dignitas, they've won game number 1. As we head into game number 2, I ask y'all at home, who is going to take the victory? mousesports seemed to be a step behind last go around, but I think this time they've got a little bit more control in their wheelhouse. Baron coming through, Agni coming through. Will it be enough? We'll see on the Battleground of the Gods. John Finch and Anatoly, take us away.
Game 2, Dignitas and mousesports. Thank you on the desk for an excellent job breaking it down, as Dignitas want to close this out here, and mousesports want to try and force a Game 3, but Zyrhoes on Freya, that could be problems.
He's done it before in the past, even before some of the changes that we just recently did to the character, and he's definitely in the comfort zone. I think that there's very few characters Zyrhoes likes to play that's untraditional, and this is amongst one of them, high in the rankings.
Yeah, this Freya has just really been, I felt like she's been strong here so far, and Zyrhoes is the kind of person that can really put that on display for them here with that change that she's recently had, of course, to the way that this kit works here for her. So we'll see if he's able to get the maximum out of it, or can Cherryo kind of close things up from the way that he played in game 1, right? He was a little bit too loose, I felt like, at times, or maybe they were just one step too slow and he got punished. Now back on that Naja again, can he slow down Zyrhoes on this Freya?
I think a lot of it has to come down to is how defensive Dignitas were in that first game, with just allowing mousesports to kind of overextend slightly amongst the back right mid camps, the left mid camps, and off of that alone, Dignitas had a comfortable lead. I don't think that they're going to be able to do the same this time, because mousesports are going for the endgame themselves. Dardez playing the Geb. We're seeing also Amaterasu on the flip side, though, from Trixtank.
He's just going to keep autoing.
Yeah, why not? Look at all this damage.
And it worked out in Trixtank's favor. Spudio's taking quite a bit of poke. Trixtank does want to come in and try and strip away the purple buff. He'll be unsuccessful there, but the whole time Arkkyl was just clearing the wave, trying to get some farm, so Dignitas looking pretty good.
And off of this, the wave entering the tower, or at least the 3 melee minions, allows to deny some more gold onto mousesports. So even though they did get the purple buff secured, losing that experience, or the gold rather, on the melee minions certainly hurts Spudio with the long run.
Now, it is a bit of a sacrifice there for Trixtank. You can see him at the bottom, but a great impale from Arkkyl, clearly comfortable on the Anhur. Gets a ton of damage on a Dardez, who barely survives. Now Cherryo is low as well. He has to retreat away from QvoFred and Zyrhoes' pressure in mid.
Needed to use the ring bounce just to get the extra movement speed. Both Harpies on the left mid camps goes the way of Dignitas. And I like the play from Arkkyl. He wanted to go a little bit further with the knockup so that way he could land and impale Dardez closer towards the Amaterasu.
Deathbane and Ambush not going to be enough for QvoFred to find the kill onto Cherryo there in the jungle, but I like the idea. I'm sure he would have liked to have had that Cobra's Kiss, but just didn't have it just yet, so instead they'll come back towards those oracles and grab them. But totally, in game 1, it felt like Dignitas were like, do you have that friend that doesn't have any opinions? They just wait for you to pick one and then they like bash on it. It's like Dignitas were kind of just like chilling back, waiting on mousesports to try something, and they go, no, that's not going to work.
So like kind of like you, right?
Well, no, I have great opinions. Fall Out Boy are the best band there's ever been.
But you like to, you know, bash on our opinions way more than you like to state yours.
I do. I do like to. Well, Aggro's wrong all the time, right? So I have to bash on his opinions. Tom's wrong all the time, so it's not my fault. They're wrong.
Fair enough.
Yeah, what can I do?
Well, if you ask them, I think they would say you're wrong.
Yeah, but they're not here. I'm the one who's mic'd up right now, so
just don't drop it, please.
Don't drop the mic, indeed. That's what mousesports have to try and avoid doing here, Tolly, is dropping the mic. and dropping this set here to Dignitas, who looked good in game 1, but showed maybe some openings, I feel like, towards the end of that game when they had trouble closing out. If mousesports could have been on slightly more even footing earlier on, they might have been able to punish Dignitas in a stronger way.
That's the unfortunate tale for mousesports, is like how close they are to winning games and getting better and better every single week, but they just can't find that missing X factor to seal the deal. And that last game, they were heavily relying on Dardez and BigManTingz, but it seems that Dignitas are relying on the aggression from their dueling.
Arkkyl is able to find the two-man knockup, but he takes too much damage. Minions and from Spudio is all too much, has to use beads just to get out of there. And Dardez and Spudio don't look that much worse for wear. In fact, Arkkyl pays a heavy price for his aggression and must back here early.
Even had to use the beads as a result, 145 seconds remaining. And as a hunter that's trying to rush your Devil Gloves, backing during the tier 2 Devil Gloves power spike is not the ideal timing. However, Trixtank could at least get some solo farms, so not all doom and gloom for the dual lane.
And look at Dardez. He's elected to go with this Blink early on as his support relic, as opposed to like the Sprint we're seeing from Trixtank, or sometimes we see Shells coming out. So he's certainly planning on having some Blink initiations from this Geb, and it hasn't even hurt them early on that Trixtank has had a more relevant active.
And something that just happened in the dual lane was Trixtank holding the way for Arkkyl, the same way Dardez was holding lane for Spudio in game number 1 with that whole Bacchus roundabout. So Arkkyl actually didn't lose much, if anything, off of his back.
Great play there from Trixtank. He's kind of been willing to sacrifice all game long for the betterment of Arkkyl, right? He missed out on essentially the entirety of Wave 1 to pressure around Purple Buff and try and strip away and try and get Arkkyl ahead so he can play aggressive as Zyrhoes takes half his HP, but QvoFred is behind for the double Cobra Kiss, double Death Bane, but Cherryo immediately responds up into the air with the Windfire Wheels.
Trying to make that happen is Zyrhoes, actually targeting out BigManTingz, now switches his target right onto Cherryo. Soul Laners making their presence, but Zyrhoes in more trouble.
Here to be the life of the party is going to be this Baron Samedi turning things around. Nika finds it with the shots. Dardez is right there as well. And 2 quick kills for mousesports to respond.
That's the tipping factor, is Dardez's Blink rotation. He just now hits level 5, so Cataclysm wasn't even used during that little scuffle, only needed the knockup. If Trixtank was there with just a sprint alone, Zyrhoes gets out, and they potentially chase the kill to secure it onto Nika.
Yeah, that's just a tough fight. It started, I feel like, with BigManTingz putting the bombs onto Zyrhoes over the wall. He was a little bit too low to come in comfortably and help out. And then Cherryo, much as he is now, was able to get the ultimate on the QvoFred. Now Trixtank is going to fall. Dardez 2-0-1 on the Geb support to get this game started off.
And the unfortunate thing is, Trixtank never backed for boots. He just now picked up the Talaria boots, whereas Dardez had Shoes of Focus ready and willing. Arkkyl, though, securing the red buff with the Desert Fury. Not the end of the world, considering it's a shorter than 90-second cooldown.
He is going to be able to make it out of there as Arkkyl after defending that red buff. But I feel like that fight could have gone so much better for them because QvoFred gets the double Cobra's Kiss and Deathbane. Yeah. That's about as good of a walk-up from a Serqet as you could ask for. Unfortunately, Cherryo was just able to immediately respond, and Zyrhoes wasn't close enough.
But the thing was, the only reason why QvoFred was even in position to do so is because mousesports' attention was all onto Zyrhoes on the top right mid-Harpies. So creating that separation didn't allow the Freya to look for any follow-up.
They got the edge of the Cataclysm to Dardez, but it was just him in that position. Trixtank comes through and stops BigManTingz from following up. It's a good job that he drops the Geb shield, but now he has nothing to help his own life, and Valkyrie's discretion easily brings him down.
It helps when your support is in the action. Trixtank using that ultimate there just for good measure, shutting down Dardez that used a very ambitious Cataclysm. So no real follow-up from BigManTingz. He was a little bit too far away for the Agni bomb stuns. Dignitas getting their second kill of the game.
But I like this from Trixtank, right? You don't pick Amaterasu, I feel like, just to sit in lane, right? And just kind of hack away at minions. Trixtank has been around trying to be involved in these matches. Now, he has overstepped a little bit, which is bound to happen, but he's also been able to make some plays that couldn't have happened otherwise.
Cherryo feeling so bold, a confident jungler when they look for the back left invade camps. Now, I understand when you're going for the solo lane side because sometimes the enemy jungler might be too preoccupied with their own speed buff, so there's that slight window of opportunity, but no, going straight for the left. Cherryo just not afraid of anything.
Variety not afraid of Nika here either, not with this low of mana available to the Baron Samedi, continuing trying to bully him out after a good rotation early.
Very suspicious to use your root there when you have no mana to clear the wave remaining. So Variety's like, yeah, sure, come get your blue buff, I'll zone you away.
Arkkyl trying to keep up with Spudio after that airstrike. He was able to successfully force it out, but not able to get into range where he'd be able to bring him down. So just going to have to settle for forcing out the ult. But as we all know, Jing will be right back with the rapid reincarnation, so really no time missed.
And no time missed for Nika as he teleports back into the lane to finish off the Void Stone, trying to pick up his blue buff, just narrowly getting it before it fizzles away. It takes about 30 seconds to do so.
Spudio and Arkkyl so far haven't had to worry about too much extra focus after that initial start where they had, the skirmish around their purple buff 8 minutes in. So they've been able to comfortably farm. This has been a little bit more about our mid-jungle supports as Arkkyl, or not Arkkyl, but Dardez and Trixtank have rotated early on this game to be a part of a ton of fights here around the mid and around those camps on the sides.
And Variety cannot win this trade any longer, knowing that Void Stone has been completed. For Nika, Variety, only with a Tier 1 version, needs to go back to base sooner rather than later, just so that he's not going to get bullied out on his own front.
And he should be able to comfortably do that. Expends the teleport directly to that end and returns back to lane. But now Nika should be able to stand on better footing. Has the blue buff this time. Has his own brew that he cooks up for himself to help him out. One more time, that is a potion available to the whole team, and they can all pick it up. The 150 pot, obviously, and then ticks over for health and mana. And just like a chalice, refills every time you go back. It's pretty nice.
It's a pretty good.
Pretty good.
Especially for your teammates. I think at the end of the day, Health Chalice is still going to be superior, at least in the solo versus solo matchup. Both of these solo lanes actually opting for the Guardian's Blessing instead of Warrior's Blessing or anything else along that nature, wanting that extra gold per 5.
That's going to be what they're trying to do, is accelerate their builds, at least with this Blessing selection here. But that's a good friend, right? When he's bringing drinks for everybody over and just keeps refilling the glasses, I guess. Yeah, it's a nice guy. He might try and put you in his coffin, though. That might happen.
I mean, ignoring that fact, though, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good friend as Dardez is in a little bit of trouble. Has to drop the shield onto himself here in the middle lane, but nothing else really comes for it. They don't feel comfortable trying to all in a Geb, but Cherryo feels comfortable sashing Zyrhoes, forces the beads out, but Trixtank drops the dazzling offensive.
The stun comes through, but Dardez with a counter cataclysm. Trixtank falls. Cherryo forced to use that ultimate defensively, forcing QvoFred actually to run away. Not going to use that last breath quite yet.
That banish was great, though, from Zyrhoes. It kept BigManTingz from following up, but Valkyrie's discretion comes out. QvoFred goes back in, barely escapes getting outside the range, and finds the kill in the Cherryo, spreads the poison, and forces Mouse back.
Spudio and BigManTingz going to get hit by a beautiful pluck onto Dardez. Right around the corner is Nika, though, has the ultimate, but CC immune Croc.
I'm trying to be the life of the party, though, as Nika, as Arkkyl gets pinned up against the wall. Spudio, with a great rotation, turns things around. A bloodbath here in the middle lane is really all 10 players, it felt like, were a part of this exchange. mousesports, after what happened there in Game 1, they seem to have been given some energy by those few defenses at the end of it and are looking much better here.
I can't believe Dardez survived that encounter, thinking that he has no defensive relics. He has a blink where Trixtank goes for the sprint. Now, Trixtank did die early in that encounter, and I think Arkkyl had to use the jump to get closer to that combat, so he didn't really have any sort of escape from the life of the party.
Yeah, and Dardez had a great play to counter Trixtank as well when the dabbling offensive came in, the Cataclysm so he doesn't get stunned, and to prevent the follow-up. Shockwave right there as well. BigManTingz waiting in the wings to drop some damage. He would have done a lot more had it not been for Zyrhoes.
Cherryo going to get focused out, but as long as you're sitting by Dardez, anything that Trixtank is going to do, going to get cleansed away by that Geb shield. The rest of mousesports now transitioning into the mid lane, whoop onto Dardez, but Cherryo gets chunked actually.
He goes into the tower. He's trying to bring down Zyrhoes, but he can't bounce back out. Dardez is there though to pair up with him and the shield to keep him alive as QvoFred goes aggressive. He can't find the in-hand to proc the poisons. Cherryo weaving throughout the pillars, but it's not enough.
A 2-for-1, Trixtank very low. Make that a 2-for-2. Arkkyl is an absolute beast. A blink from Dardez that actually misses the knockup, and life of the party as a result will miss as well.
Arkkyl just kind of walks away. He tips his top hat and walks right out of there. Now Variety is looking to be the one to try and turn things around, lurking in the waters for the slow, but Dardez is already out. Great play from mousesports here so far, but this game is still dead even. Even though it's 7-5 in kills, they're essentially tied at this point.
Even with the experience narrowly being in the favor of mousesports, is not anything to write home about. Arkkyl made a great play there. Both of these oracles going the way of Dignitas. So getting that vision so important around the 12-minute mark.
And totally, we don't often see hunters in the mid lane for these fights this early, right? That's two fights in a row where Spudio and Arkkyl were both a part of these engagements. So it's been a ton of fighting from these teams. It feels like they really wanted to play Assault or something with how often they're all grouping up and just fighting down this lane. But mousesports, I feel like they kind of thrive in this type of fight, right? When it's a little bit messier, when you're fighting and you have to just make these quick decisions and just rely on mechanics.
I definitely think there's more control for mousesports between Agni for BigManTingz, Dardez on the Geb, even with Nika making these rotations just to root people in place, life of the party, whatnot. As long as there's team fights in the mid lane, mousesports should be able to win it. And it makes sense as to why it's so popular to have fights in the mid lane. If you control mid, then it's easily transitionable into any side lane.
Now, these leads are all relatively normalized, except over here in the dual lane. Spudio, about a level and a half or so out in front of Arkkyl. Arkkyl only just ticked over to level 12, and Spudio has been 13 for a moment already. So Arkkyl has to try and make up for the fact that he is making these rotations to mid and try and still stay even with Spudio, over the Jing who can make these rotations much easier.
It's going to be a difficult task. Just now finishing off some of the Devil Glove stacks is Arkkyl. One level advantage for Spudio thus far on the Jing rushing that crit. Probably going to be that Poison Star.
Yeah.
Really wants to apply some of these debuffs, especially if QvoFred is going to get any closer.
That's part of what makes Jing so strong, isn't it? The explosive bolt able to itemize it to crit so efficiently. It feels like, I mean. And the safety factor as well. Jing really one of those hunters that's kind of rising up, it feels like, here lately. Trying to stand with the likes of Artemis and Chernobog, but Cherryo's got to be careful. Trixtank is right behind it.
The ultimate comes through from Cherryo just to avoid the stun. Cherryo even using the beads, but perfect timing with the last breath and no more luck. Oh, no, hold the thought. The Geb Shield saved him.
Dardez is having a hell of a game here right now. Trixtank gets cataclysmed and stunned. Spudio has to use beads so he can try and keep it up, but BigManTingz is coming in over the wall, not able to find any of the bombs, and now Zyrhoes is putting out some damage of his own.
The movement speed from the Amaterasu aura is just too good. Jukes underneath to avoid the first one, on top to avoid the second one, and then to the side to avoid the third. None of those bombs connected from BigManTingz, and Dignitas, they didn't lose anyone, but they're the ones going for the Gold Fury.
They are going to try and pull it, but BigManTingz is here around the corner. Spudio not too far off as well, and Dignitas recognize there's too much presence. They drop the Gold Fury, and this game remains relatively even. How did QvoFred, or not QvoFred, but Cherryo make it out of that fight? I mean, I thought for sure he was dead to rights, but it just barely makes it out.
It's the utility nausea, going for the defense option. Shifter shield, so once you're less than 50% health, you're getting that extra protection. Now, even though the last breath does ignore protections, it's also the Geb Shield on top that gave Cherryo just that extra breathing room to survive that initial burst and then transition back into the team fight.
And Cherryo times the beats perfectly so he doesn't get hit by the Cobra's Kiss, but QvoFred, he rides along with the last breath, and right at the tail end is still able to throw him back once that CSC immunity fell off. So really just excellent play all around from everyone involved as Nika wants to try and turn things around into variety and force out the lurking in the waters.
Trading ultimate for ultimate on the right side. And you're so right about using the last breath to wait out the initial CC immunity. And that's just what Serqet does. She'll just ride you until she finishes. And then on top of that, looking for any sort of kills. But a little bit quiet on the left-hand side as Spudio have a 2-level lead on top of Arkkyl.
Cherryo ready to get things started once more. Is going to turn around and win Fire Wheels, not onto Zyrhoes actually, but he's got QvoFred in his sights. Flame Wave is there for BigManTingz, but not enough for the kill. Zyrhoes even drops the Valkyrie's discretion, but they can't quite find anyone.
Tier 1 mid tower is pretty healthy, but it looks like mousesports wants to try to force something with all the damage onto QvoFred. Ultimate from Cherryo was expended, but Zyrhoes having to use that Valkyrie discretion. That's a good defensive tool not available to maybe have mousesports engage with Dardez's Blink Cataclysm.
Looks like Variety wants to be a part of this fight as he teleports into the tower. Gold Fury is being looked at now by mousesports. They've got some pretty aggressive positioning around it, and they've got Nika here on that Baron Samedi to try and keep everyone healthy and give them extra movement speed. They should have a good chance for the defense, but looks like both teams might be giving up that position.
It's a game of chicken. Both of them have vision against each other. Vision now being controlled by mousesports around the Gold Fury, forcing Dignitas' hand to get a little bit closer. And still, such an even game. A different tale compared to game number 1, where Dignitas were able to capitalize off of the overzealous positioning from Cherryo.
It really has been, I feel like, from start to finish. And one of the key differences, because I think there's multiple, but one of them really feels like Dardez for me on this gap. He's done an excellent job so far. Rotating early on in the games. Those shields have been great as well to keep people alive. He's been Cataclysm, Shockwave in response to aggression as well. I mean, it's been great.
He avoids the ultimate out of Trixtank with his own Cataclysm.
Perfectly timed.
Saving Cherryo in the left-hand side was so crucial. There should have been maybe like 2, maybe even 3 more additional kills if Dardez wasn't there. And even the fact that he out-rotated Trixtank at that level 5 marker. He even had time to back for Shoes of Focus. Great recognition and game presence.
And it's been just kind of back and forth from both these teams. We've had Hunters involved in fights. We don't always see them in. Arkkyl just kind of hoofing it across the map so he can be a part of some of these fights in middle lane and landing some excellent impales as well. We'll see if they do want to try and battle over this Gold Fury, but it looks like after that pause resolved, they've kind of just reset their positions and fallen back.
Not wanting to pull the trigger quite yet. Everyone is healthy now on both sides. Mana is a little bit low for Nika, so that could be one option to exploit. Baron very popular about just spamming those abilities. That's why you stick him in the soul lane, you give him blue buff, you will also be able to have the Breastplate of Valor just spam even further.
And the ability to, sort of teleport back in if he needs to as well. There's a lot of tools to help him, as Spudio has to use his own ultimate in response to Dazzling Offensive. Dardez is low in middle lane, so Last Breath will be committed. Cataclysm hits 2, but not going to hit QvoFred, who finds the clean kill.
The offensive dash for BigManTingz, that could have been a huge mistake. Good beats to avoid the initial pluck. Variety now going to eat a lot of damage. No CC immune ultimate, but Arkkyl comes in for the cleanup.
QvoFred finds Cherryo here as well. They've already taken down 3 members. 2 of them were all at the hands of QvoFred on this Serqet. Spudio, at the very least, does find Variety in response. A 3-for-1 favoring Dig, and they're going to start heading over towards Gold Fury. They still have Arkkyl and all the damage they could need.
And it's Nika and Spudio that has to play defense, but only Spudio is close enough to do anything about it. QvoFred trying to wrap around that little wall. There goes the whoop right on top, forcing the agility. Dignitas confirmed the very first Gold Fury of game number 2.
That's going to start to give them the first lead, but again, this game was so even that it's not a tremendous lead. They're going to be about, what, 2,200 gold or so? Yeah, 2,200 gold out in front, about 3,000 experience after all those kills as well. But a really impressive fight from there in the middle lane. QvoFred's play has been excellent on this Serqet all game long.
Absolutely. Just his patience alone. When he was kind of waiting like a true predator on the right side mid Harpies, you can tell how comfortable he is with this goddess.
Did a great job trying to punish, in particular, Dardez there in the middle lane. Once they realized they got some poke on him, QvoFred kind of dropped the entire kit on him. And I believe Dardez might have been maybe a little bit too early. He wasn't able to catch QvoFred inside the Cataclysm either. So QvoFred was able to Deathbane and finish off that kill and still get the retreat and re-engage later on for another one. Just great play from the Serqet.
Also a very suspicious dash from BigManTingz.
That's right.
At that team fight. He dashed in very offensively right after the death also from Cherryo. So making Dardez rather, making matters even worse for mousesports than it needed to be. Dignitas walks away clean with the Gold Fury as we approach the 20-minute mark. Still, even in the kill count, not the same as game number 1.
And we've been talking a lot about how strong Naja has been here lately, and as much as Cherryo's been aggressive, I don't know if they've been able to get enough out of him. It's because Dignitas do a good job, I think, of not allowing the follow-up off the back end of it. If they can't stop Cherryo, they'll stop whoever was going to follow up.
You know what it is, Finch? They're not playing Naja's support. Knowing Dardez, he'll bring it out. And he'll succeed very well. There's so many threats Dardez can bring to the table at any given moment. But I like the fact that mousesports aren't playing wild quite yet in the fall split. They're still kind of holding back some of those ideas until a rainy day. And having the get for the late game is important because of the way it negates all this damage over time against the Last Breath.
That is going to be an important tool for them. And I like what you're saying there. Dardez showing, and we've certainly seen it from before, that he can play these traditional, just regular Guardians, as well as he can play Noxus, as well as he can play some of these other odd picks you've seen him play. So you never really know what you're going to get, except that it's going to be high quality from this guy. And a lot of his support has helped Spudio enjoy this small lead over Arkkyl, about level and a half still. So that's kind of, I feel like, where they could play through, try and get Spudio involved in these fights.
Genji's guard for both supports really trying to get this magical defense online, where a lot of supports would, rush either the Heartward Amulet or try to go for the Gauntlet of Thieves. We haven't really been seeing that today. as of recent, so just trying to switch things up a little bit. Talaria boots for one, but only choose the focus for the other. Really goes to show there's different styles between the support players.
It is a little bit difficult, but maybe it's because it's a hard time trying to find some cooldown in those builds, as Arkkyl gets a good pillar, but no real follow-up on it. I like the positioning from it either way. Dignitas going to take this opportunity to start looking towards the Pyromancer, though, Tully. And really, mousesports are going to get aggressive in the mid lane instead of responding to it. Cherryo can't find Zyrhoes in the mid lane. Dignitas get the Pyro and all back off.
Surprised to even use that ultimate in the first place. I didn't really see a threat available there. Trixtank forced to rotate on the left-hand side, trying to hold on to this tier 2 tower for the moment. And when you can keep an enemy hunter at bay on the left-hand side as the support, you're doing a good job.
Trixtank is so fast. Did you see him on the entry? Spudio, he let off a lot of shots and still couldn't quite find him because Amaterasu just kind of weaves her way in, it feels like. It's so hard to try and lock her down. But Dignitas, they want to lock down this Fire Giant. QvoFred and Arkkyl have it. Variety keeping 3 members busy in the middle lane. I don't think that mousesports recognizes this is happening. FG over to Dignitas 22 minutes in.
Such a seasoned and veteran team, the Black and Yellow Chaos Squad, sneaking one away right from mousesports under their nose. This is a plenty of a big window timer to look for these towers. And there's plenty of them, Finch, 5 to be exact. Looking at 5,500 gold collectively, just waiting for Dignitas to snatch.
That's such a big play. I'm right there with you on that one, totally. Mousesports, for all intents and purposes, were even, or at least within, shouting distance. They were very much still in this. But if Dignitas get, as you said, these remaining towers, or even half of them, that's a lot of gold to start creating some real space between them and mousesports. This could be where it breaks open. So now they have to start answering some difficult questions. Where do they defend against this Dignitas team when they start their siege?
It's all about how they utilize Dardez in the matter, and with BigManTingz to follow up. Same way they did in the game number 1. Bacchus, Thoth,
that's right,
Geb,
yeah.
Agni. Doesn't matter what these two players are piloting. They're the ones that are holding the foundation of mousesports alive.
They did a great job on their Phoenix defenses last time, and I think that this is the kind of situation, totally, where you might not be able to just give up your tier 2s and fall back to the Phoenixes because of just how close you were before it. If you can try and keep this game sort of within arm's reach, they've shown they can clearly stick with them, but Dardez, he might be in trouble. He's pretty far forward, and the rest of Dignitas are on their way.
Good Cataclysm to prevent the initial stun, but QvoFred not going to allow Dardez any freedom. Good pluck from Variety, forcing the beats onto Spudio. But honestly, against the Sobek as a Jing way, you're better off taking the pluck and then using that agility to get away.
Just to try and dash back out of there, which you can do from those knockups, and as well as from when Variety comes in with the pluck. But that's a quick tier 1 and tier 2. And now with the 5v4, they could take down this Phoenix as well. They're surging right in off the back of Trixtank on this Amaterasu. Variety going to be the front line for them. Cherryo finds the sash. QvoFred be the target, but he misses the Windfire wheels.
Trixtank very low life, but the party is going to bring him right on back. It's now a 4-on-4, and keep in mind, Dardez is reviving in 5 seconds.
They'll have their get back to try and help them defend, but Dignitas get a little bit too far ahead of themselves in this one, Anatoly. Not going to be able to grab that Phoenix on the left-hand side. They end up losing their own support, and I feel like those are the kind of situations where Baron looks really strong, right? Just pulling you back into the Phoenix.
One little mistake against Baron, and you will certainly feel that in a devastating fashion, and I'm surprised the way Dignitas can transition from being so patient in game number 1 to still being a little bit too careless in closing out games. There's still 3 towers remaining. Why even go for a outside Phoenix in a 5-on-4? Sure, Dardez isn't there with the Cataclysm and the Geb shields, but if you don't have a full build on her, how are you actually going to be able to get this one away? Because between BigManTingz alone is plenty of AoE damage to make it more difficult for Arkkyl to get the pot shots he needs.
And mousesports kind of bails Dardez out, I feel like, in that one too, because it was just a bit too far forward. Well, it was the support from mousesports, and he ends up getting punished for it on the back end. But the other 4 were able to make a strong defense. As you said, Team Dignitas, I think, let their momentum get a little bit too far and dove in too hard. You can make that push on the left Phoenix, I think, without all-in committing onto it. They almost all in on that Phoenix. That's why they were able to get so punished.
And it's not going to stop Dignitas right in their tracks anyway. Plenty of time, about 25 seconds remaining on this Fire Giant buff on 4 of their members. They can look to engage if they want to. Blink is available for Variety. Beads It's not available for Spudio. Still needs 25 seconds.
Trixtank dashes in aggressively looking for the silence. Dazzling offensive, a huge initiation tool used just for the disengage. And now mousesports can defend. They've defended the Fire Giant. They gave up the tier 2 and 2 tier 1s, yes. But this is what I was saying. They didn't give up the biggest pieces of the puzzle. They didn't give up too much of that gold lead. They're down about 7,000 or so, but they can still fight back in.
This is the best that mousesports can possibly hope for. That they
Right.
keep all their Phoenixes alive. They still have 2 more tier 2 towers that Dignitas needs to go through to get those Phoenixes down those lanes. And they still have plenty of time to maybe defend some objectives.
But now Dignitas trying to force mousesports into a bad situation. The target's going to be BigManTingz. Geb shield has already been expended. Dardez does have the shockwave, and BigManTingz has the Aegis, and now his shield comes out again. With that dash away, BigManTingz might be out.
No, he's not, because QvoFred is there for the cleanup, but it took a lot of an investment to do so. Nika with the life of the party, but keep in mind, Dardez actually fell on the back end of that one. QvoFred looking to disengage, and with 2 clean picks, I don't see how mousesports can defend this second Fire Giant.
They collapsed back onto Dardez once they realized BigManTingz had dashed away, but QvoFred was still that rogue agent who had no problem tracking down the Agni, and Dardez fell as well. Now with a 5v3, Dignitas very comfortably able to go for the Fire Giant. No real way for mousesports to defend. And that was sort of that integral moment, right, where they let a Fire Giant be stolen away when the game was relatively even, and they mitigated it. But now they've given up another one and a couple picks, and this lead's going to expand out even worse.
It's the enhanced Fire Giant. Dignitas should be able to group up and look to clean up at least this last and final tower. BigManTingz responding in 5 seconds. Can't really make an impact for the tier 2 tower, but can certainly make his presence felt under the middle Phoenix.
Nika and Dardez are here, but yeah, there's just no way. That tower goes down entirely too quickly. Now, with everything but the Phoenixes removed from the map, Dignitas enjoying a 13,000 gold leader just about in that area, and they're going to be ready to regroup and siege onto the Phoenixes with essentially the full buff. They've got max duration on this Fire Giant buff to work with to try and force down the door.
Trying to go for some potions as well. Sitting at 78,000 gold collectively as a team is nearing that full 6-item slot build. Trixtank still trying to work on that Mantle of Discord of his, trying to get some stacks of the Height of the Urchin for variety, but he's essentially full build, and I don't see how mousesports can start to get out of this one. Look where QvoFred is.
Perfectly looping around on the backside of the fight, waiting on them to get distracted, avoids getting hit by any kind of Agni bombs, and waits patiently for BigManTingz, who's going to be his target. Trixtank finishes him off with the help from the last breath. Spudio has to jump away, but Arkkyl does end up falling to Nika too, and a little bit of healing coming out from the Baron.
The sprint being used, trying to get away. Dardez with a nice knock-up. QvoFred is going to get slowed quite heavily, but a beautiful Cobra's Kiss is going to enable the kill onto Nika.
They don't have Arkkyl, though. Perhaps their best tool for sieging down these Phoenixes, which could make things a little bit easier for Cherryo, Dardez, and Spudio to try and defend, but it'll be 3v4. Cherryo just now backing to base. They've got to try and keep this Phoenix standing here, Totally, if mousesports wants to keep their chances alive.
Dignitas might not have the Phoenix structure damage, but mousesports don't have the AoE damage they need with Big Man and Nika dead. Spudio gets plucked in, gets a Geb shield, forced to use the beads on top of it, trying to desperately hold on to this middle Phoenix.
Spudio's putting a good return damage, though, even though they don't have much else. They just don't have enough damage to burst down these Phoenixes quickly enough. Cherryo goes in with the sash, beads gets him away from the pluck, and Team Dignitas cannot take down the Phoenix.
Oh, the chase is onto Zyrhoes, however. There goes the blink, the cataclysm, Aegis being used, and I think this might have been a bait for Dignitas.
Cherryo is going to send out that ring bounce to try and force out a little bit more cooldowns, but now they have BigManTingz on his way to come be a part of the fray. QvoFred is on the backside with that Cobra's Kiss, but Zyrhoes is the one who has the damage.
With the respawn from BigManTingz, mousesports feeling very confident to get in. A good whoop onto Cherryo, and there it goes. Dazzling offensive right on top of Cherryo with no beads.
Cherryo has to use Windfire Wheels, but he misses everybody, splits the uprights, and Zero makes him watch the game in black and white. Now Spudio is going to drop the airstrike to try and get away. Dardez, the next one, up on the chopping block. He gets slowed. QvoFred cuts the distance, and last breath is all that it takes.
Nika goes down as well. 3 quick picks. mousesports thought they could be on the chase and on the offensive, but Trixtank's aura on the Amaterasu allows the escape.
Mid Phoenix should come tumbling down, and I think that middle Phoenix might be the only one that they need. Dignitas are not going to play this too slow any longer. BigManTingz dash in aggressively. Zyrhoes goes up with the Valkyrie's discretion and finds one more kill. 5 members strong. Dignitas going to take down the Titan, take game 2 and the whole set over Mouse.
A clean 2-0 victory in 31 minutes of play, 11 minutes faster than the first game, and that's the way you close it out right there. I think Dignitas learned from their mistakes in the first game, and definitely made sure that they hit the objectives when it really mattered.
And that's tough too, because I feel like Mouse played the early and mid game way better than game 1, but they lost this game faster even. Doesn't it feel kind of weird to say it that way? In that late game, they a couple times got picked off. Dardez got picked off a couple times, a little bit too out of position, and Dignitas were able to force him down.
I think a lot of it has to come down to that sneaky fire giant that Dignitas did at the 22-minute mark. Without that one, I think mousesports can still really rely on this MVP performance by Dardez's Geb, but unfortunately his team was the one that lost.
Yeah, so not going to be able to select him as your MVP. Who from Dignitas, though, is the one that stood out for you? Go ahead and vote for us in the Mixer poll. Let us know what you were thinking there. Totally. Anyone stick out in particular for you? I mean, for me, it's got to be QvoFred.
Yeah, QvoFred was there every single time with the Serqet, even isolating BigManTingz on several occasions, especially on that end game when he was chasing down Big Man despite Dardez being right there.
And that's not the longest targeter, right, for that last breath. It's that little circle right in front of Serqet and just barely gets close enough to catch up and latch on, I feel like, onto Dardez and make sure they take him out of that match. I mean, totally, that one felt like it couldn't have been much closer, but Dignitas finally did close it out. We'll get it back over to the desk and let them give you their thoughts.
Dignitas and Mouse closest one out. Dignitas 2 wins over none. Mouse unable to really make this happen, and unfortunately, I'm looking at the carries of Team mousesports just not able to really lift the heavy lifting.
A couple of decent Phoenix defenses there towards the end, but it almost felt a little bit more like mercy kills from Dignitas, kind of just being gift wrapped to the team, where Dig got a little bit sloppy towards the end, but with the lead that they had, I can understand why they might have felt a little overconfident during some of those sieges. I think that as a whole, though, this Baron pick has not tended to work out for a lot of the teams today.
Yeah, the Baron still has yet to really find strong wins here at the pro level. Zyrhoes always going to be a guy I talk about. I think he's just that damn good. But this game, one step ahead of him, QvoFred. The Serqet player in the jungle looked really strong, able to make things happen. Very few deaths. His kills off the charts, and plays like this just make it work.
It really did just get thrown all across the board. Qvo just knew that he could trust his teammates to try and follow up with him on the Serqet, but what's even better than that is not even necessarily looking for the taunts in, just going straight for the ultimates, trying to throw the members of Mouse out of position as quickly as possible.
I love the word you used there, Taco. You said trust, and at the end of the day, this is something that I think the Dignitas team has struggled with. And the reason I take a pause there is because Dignitas have historically been great friends. Like I said, Trixtank and QvoFred, Dignitas put out some work that said teammates for life. Zyrhoes has been there forever. Variety fits it right in. But when you watch these guys play, it doesn't always seem like they have that trust between the 5 of them coming out today. I saw that, the ability not to go for the taunt, but just go for the ultimate and have that trust that the team would follow up. I think that's something new that's pushing Dignitas to the next level.
I also kind of want to see a little bit more of the Arkkyl that we got out of this set today, because I feel throughout the duration of the spring and summer splits for the online portions at least, Arkkyl felt a little bit more quiet, but I loved how aggressive he chose to play. Maybe it was just the Anhur pick exclusively and prompting him to want to go in a little bit further, but I liked seeing him actually try to jump into the action right away. It seemed like it really caught mousesports off guard, and maybe, again, this is just an exclusive case where Arkkyl's able to kind of take advantage of the situation, knowing that he has his teammates close by to also help further back him up. But there was one escape that I really took note of after he got a pretty cheeky little double kill there in the mid lane, and then he chose to exit towards the bottom right mid heartbeat area and able to avoid the Geb slows and everything, and it just worked out really well. But that's kind of the Arkkyl that I don't think we get to see too often of, and that's the one that we want to see more of.
And again, I think the thing that brings that Arkkyl out is the trust. That might be the motif for Dignitas in the fall split. Trust. And hopefully for them and their fans, it will be enough to bring them to that next level and make them show up for the fall time LAN.